I'll call the meeting to order with my gavel. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I invite you to join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Kolpak? Here. Pepcorn?
Here.
Preston? Here. Strand?
Here.
Mahoney?
Here. The library. Job Service North Dakota staff is offering walk-in services at the main library November 15th from 2 to 4 p.m. These sessions are free and registration is not required. Services available will include job-seeking assistance, veteran services, information on training programs, resume building assistance, limited unemployment insurance assistance, and migrant and seasonal farm worker services. Residents are reminded that the library offers readers advisory services for kids, teens, and adults. Kids and their caregivers can request reading recommendations through What's Next, personalized reading recommendations for a kid's service. Adults and teens can request reading recommendations through May We Suggest service. Anyone interested in these services should fill out a questionnaire and return it to the library, and the librarians will send a list of suggested titles, authors, series based on the questionnaires response. The children's librarian also handled curriculum requests by teachers or caregivers with What's Next service. Items can be placed on hold for curbside pickup if the patron requests. Planning. On Tuesday at noon, the Chamber and City Commission chambers, the consultants for the Downtown Focus Plan will give a presentation and provide an update on the status of the plan's implementation. The plan was adopted nearly 5 years ago, and there have been many changes in the downtown since that time. Everybody in public is invited. Speaking of downtown, just so everybody knows, there's been a lot of conversations and discussion about downtown, and the commission and all the commissioners, as well as mayor, is very engaged to improve those services. The engagement center and the harm reduction team, along with the police, are looking at a variety of ways to make the downtown be the downtown we all want. And I would suggest to everybody, we're on a full court press in that issue, and we will continue to work to improve the downtown. We've had some real nice articles from the New York Times and also from the Wall Street Journal that does highlight the town as a gem that we all should be proud of, and just would say we're continuing to work on work in progress. The apartment vacancy rate in Fargo has declined to 3.1% as of June 1st. This is a very low vacancy rate, thereby apartment construction has increased. So far in 2022, building permits have been issued for 973 multifamily housing units, including 164 lower income units, 2 projects, one downtown and one in the Southwest Fargo, 663 market rate apartments in Southwest Fargo in 12 buildings, and 90 apartments in a TIF project west of downtown, and 54 units in downtown Renaissance Zone project with some condos. The light panels inside city chambers as well as the lights outside in City Hall are to be lit up in pink tonight to celebrate the announcement earlier today that Pink will be returning to the 3rd time in Fargo, August 19th, for a concert at the Fargo Dome. Commissioner Kolpak has agreed to get on roller skates for us for that night. As one of the 22 graduates of the Class 3 of the Fargo Police Academy, Tumba Lum Samba has been sworn in as a Fargo Police Department Neighborhood Services Officer on October 25th. From growing up in the Democratic Republic of Congo, fleeing to a refugee camp, Anumibi-Un, living in the camp for 10 years, and then relocating to the Fargo community, Officer Lum Samba joins the ranks of our team and is ready to serve the community. This video shows an insight to her journey.
I want people to keep in their mind about me that I'm a strong person. I'm patient. I've been through a lot, but I didn't let that define who I am today. Jina yangu ni Ntumba Lusamba na mimi nashikia furaha na kutumika na watu wa Fargo. So my name is Ntumba Lusamba and I'm very proud to work with the people of Fargo. It's been a long journey and I was born in Congo, Lubumbashi, and I left Congo when I was 7. And once I left Congo, we found ourselves in a refugee camp in a neighboring country called Namibia. From there, I lived with other family members. We lived there for almost 11 to 10 years. And then I met my husband in a refugee camp, and we got resettled in the United States not with my husband because he was in a different file. And then when I got here, I had to file for him in order for him to get here to help me raise our son. And then I pursued my education, continued with my education. I graduated from high school and then went to M State. With that, I signed up for the academy, graduated from that this year too, just to pursue my career in the law enforcement, to make myself proud in what I've accomplished in life, and also my son, being able to like tell the people that yes, my mom is a cop, she's doing something for herself, and yeah, just to make my family and my son proud. So when I was getting sworn in with the Fargo Police Department, my son had the opportunity to come and pin my badge in. When I saw him pinning my badge in, I got emotional because at his age, at 7, I had to leave my country. And it's not like that was my wish to leave my country, but it happened. So at his age, pinning my badge, it brought up some sad memories, but I was proud that he had to do that I didn't have a chance to do it to anybody, but he had a chance to do that to me. That I'm sure that will remain in his memory too, and be like, yes, I did something for my mom. Although I was holding back tears because it brought a lot of memories. I want to be an opposite when it comes to policing, an opposite of the cops back home in Congo. I want to be a cop that they count on. And the Fargo is a growing community. We have different people, different backgrounds with different stories. Being a cop, I think I'll be a good helper to different kinds of people, knowing the solution that they might need in their life. So that's the kind of cop I want to be. I want everybody to look at me and be like, okay, she did something in my life. She brought something new and changed my life.
Great addition, Chief. Approve the order of agenda. Is there a motion to approve the order of agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. If I could,
Commissioner Preston.
yeah, if I could amend that. Sorry, I didn't jump in fast enough. I would like to pull item number 1 down to regular agenda, and it's solely just for the purpose of recording the vote differently on that one. And then item number 32, I'd like that to get pulled with the intent to bring it back in the near future. But hopefully we'll have some conversation at the retreat about committees. So I'll pull that one off if I can. I'm the one that put it on, so I'm assuming I can request pulling it off.
Is that okay with the first on this motion, John?
Absolutely.
It is, okay. Roll call vote, please.
Strand,
Yes.
Preston,
Aye.
Kolpak. Aye. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the October 31st regular meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the consent items 2 through 29 and omitting item 32 from or tabling it, I guess it would be item 32 from the agenda?
Yeah, we're just doing consent agenda now, right? Yeah.
I'm sorry, consent agenda would be 2 through 29.
Second?
Roll call vote, please.
Strand,
Yes.
Preston,
Aye.
Kolpak.
Aye.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye. Resident comment time. We have 2 people speaking tonight. Patrick Kelly.
Hello, City of Fargo. I know you guys are pretty focused on the downtown. I'm going to tell you right now, I've lived here my whole life. I've lived all over the country. Fargo's awesome. It's not Los Angeles. If you think Fargo's Los Angeles, you've never been to Los Angeles. It's a dramatic difference. There have been some nice things written about Fargo. Currently, I got some court updates for you guys. Personally, I have court tomorrow morning at 8:45 for playing music out on the street. There's also been the court of public opinion. There's been a news story on the 10 o'clock news. I was on a radio program the other day. Facebook is a place where a lot of people get their news. and go to talk, kind of a public square, free speech, that kind of thing. The Fargo Police Department gave kind of an overview of their downtown sweep. And the comment section is filled with people questioning why 2 street performers were criminally cited with the potential of a $1,000 fine right next to consuming in public and urinating in public. The last video that the communications department made, they used my image and likeness next to a list of offenses. If everybody can see here, next to a list of offenses, and it was my picture.
I'm going to ask you to
surrounded by-
put that down because that is not your image that you have on that and being disrespectful to my employees. So you can continue your presentation, but we will no longer have that picture showed.
All right, can I get the time restarted?
No, you can't get the time restarted.
All right. I guess what my issue is that I thought it was defamatory. The city attorney didn't think so. The people I talked to didn't think so. So I guess my deal is you guys aren't faring well in the court of public opinion, and we got to straighten it out. Let's make downtown a cool place. It doesn't need to be a police state. It doesn't need to be. It's just not getting handled right.
Christopher Cohen?
Yeah, Christopher Cohn, Fargo resident, pronouns he, his, him. And I wanted to talk about the Police Advisory and Oversight Board. So what came up at the last meeting was that they say they're not, and the chair went through the ordinance related to it and said they're not set up to do any investigations. So what I don't understand is how they're going to analyze post-discipline officer-involved shooting incidents, such as the Shane Netterville shooting and killing from July. How are they going to assess that if they can't do any investigations? So I think, I don't know, there needs to be a change to the ordinance then. I mean, you can't ask them to analyze a complicated incident like that or to study it if they can't do any investigation whatsoever. Also, as I said last time, I think the professional standards investigation of that incident, I disagree with it, having watched the video, but I think they went too far. If it's their assessment that there was no policy violations, they should have just said that. Instead, they went on to a whole defense of the officer for why he did what he did, which I think was not a valid argument whatsoever. They're essentially acting like a defense attorney or laying the ground for a defense attorney if this goes to court. And that's really not the role of professional standards. They're to determine whether there was any policy violations or not. And, I had my own experience with professional standards, it was 2 years ago now, in which I took a photograph of drug dealers in the parking lot where I lived in an apartment complex. And professional standards determined that I was the one that had caused the incident. And they went against all the facts of the case. It was completely a bogus investigation. And I think this has to be addressed by more than just the liaison to the police. I think all of you have to get involved. Thank you.
Public input hearing number 31A, hearing to consider the development agreement of Great Plains NP Holding to build and operate a garage parking or parking garage to be located at 602-636 Northern Pacific Avenue. It was continued from the 10/31/22 meeting. To be explained, Mike Redinger.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'll be very brief, just setting up this item. We have a brief PowerPoint slide deck this evening. 2 weeks ago, the City Commission received a report from staff on a potential funding and financing plan for the construction of this facility. And so this item was continued to this evening. And so I'll be joined at the podium by Eric Johnson and Terry Gayhart, our Finance Director. We thought it'd be really helpful to start first with some of the particular history of why we have done some of these public-private partnerships in downtown Fargo. Eric will provide that history, and then following that, Terry will summarize some conversations that she has had with Baker Tilly, our financial advisor, just talking about how to finance and take care of this project long-term. So I'll have Eric come up first, and he will provide just a few comments, and then we'll be joined at the podium here by Terry as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, and good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Eric Johnson, Assistant City Attorney. Michael asked me to provide a little bit of an overview of the project relative to the other projects. If approved and constructed, this would be the fourth public-private partnership that the city's entered into for construction of a parking garage. In order to sort of lay out the framework and provide a frame for the issues, it seemed appropriate to pick the one that was the most comparable, and that project would be the Block 9 project. Comparable in that the Block 9 project, frankly, with all of these projects, this is the case, captured taxes generated by the increase in value. In the case of Block 9, $100 million plus project, of course. The city borrowed the money to finance the part of the public injection, and the public elements were a parking garage and of course, the Broadway Plaza that we all know and now love. The captured taxes were used to pay back those borrowed funds. With any shortages in the Block 9 project, the shortages were covered by the Block 9 owners and actually corporate guarantees to back that up. Again, the public benefits were this parking garage, which was a 350 space parking garage. Nights and weekends were free. The public plaza used both for private events, but also public events and otherwise publicly available. Thus far, it's been very much publicly available. I did note that the Downtown in Focus study undertaken by the city, approved by the City Commission in January 2018, talked about the need for people to come back more than once, more than just to come and take a picture in front of the Fargo Theater, for example, to have a meal. They needed some kind of experience or street activity to bring them back, and certainly the Broadway Plaza has been that, and we'll talk about that relative to the NP project as well. So again, common ground with the NP project and Block 9 are similarly with NP, we'll capture the taxes generated by this $30 million project in order to pay for these public expenses. Also, TIF will be captured on other lands that are part of the TIF district yet to come before the City Commission. Similarly, the city will borrow funds to finance the construction of the parking garage and use those captured taxes to pay back the debt. In this case, different than the Block 9 is the fact that we'll have parking revenues increment as well as any other city sources of funds that will pay for any shortage in covering that debt. That's part of what Terry's going to talk about, is to talk about the estimated shortage and that we've identified and how that might be paid. Public benefits on the NP project are a larger parking garage, 455 spaces. Again, generating revenues from the minute the project is done. The city will own this particular project and be operated by the developer, but own and generate the revenues for the city. And that's a difference. Public benefit on the NP Avenue that's similar to the plaza is the community theater. So a 60-plus year tradition of and track record of public benefit programming, virtually 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And again, the kind of experience that the in-town focus talked about as being important to bring people back to downtown over and over again. So again, the three main points in common were capturing those property taxes to pay for public costs that aren't part of the general mill levy, multi-level parking spaces, replacing surface level spaces that have been the topic of conversation for many, many years. I just was having a conversation with a former city administrator who said that, we didn't have the money to pay for parking levels 10, 15 years ago. That's why it didn't seem like an option. What's come along here in the last 6 or 7 years have been developers who are willing to have projects large enough to generate increment that can pay for, if not all of it, for the most part, with the Block 9 project, a substantial portion of it. And the other aspect that has been a topic of conversation and policy discussion for a number of years is just the need to get that parking as close to Broadway as possible. So far with the, how well downtown has been thriving, it's still along the Broadway corridor. And so that activity, in order to branch out, needs to do in small increments. Again, Mercantile, this project, and Roco, all within a block of Broadway, but along the entire length north to south. And so that's what really adds a lot of horsepower to these projects. I mentioned the similarities with the Block 9 project. There are some distinctions as well. The NP Avenue Garage will have 50 parking spaces of the 455 that are not dedicated. They'll be kind of floating parking spaces, and they will be reserved for a neighboring property owner that contributed, I don't mean donated, but contributed property into the project, Global Development. We had the same situation with Block 9, where US Bank was a neighbor that existed. They were contributing half of the property, two-thirds of the property actually, half of the block, that went into the Block 9 project, but part of it they needed to retain some parking spaces. And so that ground level of the Block 9 parking garage is reserved to US Bank, 26 spaces, plus some space for their drive-through teller. So common elements there, but slightly different numbers. The maximum public cost in Block 9 was $15 million with NP Avenue, larger parking garage and so forth, is a $20 million maximum cost. And again, one of the issues that's a distinction here in Block 9, because the parking or the Block 9 owners were going to ultimately, in the end, buy the parking garage on a contract for deed over the span of the 25 years. Public still gets the benefit of the use of it, but all the risk shifted to them for payment of the debt service. In this case, we're the owners of the parking garage from day one, and the shortfall comes to us. Again, we've identified a shortfall of about $6 million. It comes in the early years when there's some exemptions and so forth that need to be granted to the developer in order to make things work for them, and as a result, takes a while for the tax increment to build up steam. That's where Terry's going to talk about how the city might be able to cover that initial 5-6 year shortfall of cash flow. So that's my description of the NP Avenue project, and I think I'll hand the podium over to Terry, and I'll of course remain for any questions.
And commissioners, per your last conversation on this topic, we were just trying to get to some real essential elements to where we go from here. So we just have 2 slides tonight, and then the recommended motion. So Terry will provide a summary of the conversations that she had with Baker Tilly, and then we'll open it up for your discussion. So.
What I want to tell you is that the finance team, Baker Tilly, Jennifer Hansen at the Bond Council, and Ede Bailey have all looked at this issue. And we found that in 2020, the city refinanced 4 large bond issues. And they refinanced it at a much lower rate, and that the savings from those 4 large bonds are more than sufficient to pay for this project. And we're proposing that we would do an interfund loan from this debt service fund to cover any shortfall. I guess you can see in this bar chart in the first like 8 years of the project, there's going to be deficits, and they're not going to be more than $1 million. And this debt that we're going to, this debt service fund that we're going to be using as the interfund loan is more than sufficient to cover all of these deficits.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask a question.
Mr. Preston?
So Terry, what I'm understanding you saying is that whatever debt payments would be going into this refinanced debt will instead be used to pay on the debt of the ramp. Is that,
No,
am I understanding?
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that it's like you remortgaged your house and you got a lesser rate and your payments went down. And the difference between the higher older payments and the new payments, that savings, that's what's going to pay for
Yeah,
this.
yeah, and
that
that's
make
what I
sense?
was saying. I'm sorry. I
Sorry.
probably didn't say it clearly enough, but, okay.
Okay?
Commissioner Pipcorn?
So, Mr. Chair, I have this question for Terry. At the last commission meeting, we had some concerns about the way it was set up, and would you say you're, the way it's set up now, you're acceptable with the current, the way it's set up going forward?
We've had a number of discussions. We've gone through all the details. We've shuffled. We've, sifted all through all the details. And we've come in agreement in all of the numbers, where they're coming from, the money from the parking fund, what fund pieces will come from the parking revenue and all of that. And we know that we've got it now. And it's going to all be finally paid for by this savings from the interest.
So, Mr. Chair, if she's good with it, I'm good with it, and I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, just a minute. I think I have to have a public hearing, Mike. Is that right? You guys put it on the public hearing test?
This was the continuation of the public hearing, so we would close the public hearing and then action.
Okay, moved and seconded. Okay. Any discussion? Commissioner Strand?
Thank you. Terry, if you'd stay at the podium, please. You're not getting away that fast.
I got to move faster.
Help me understand the dollar amount of those savings from those bonds,
Those bonds were quite large.
and how much are
Two
they?
of them were in the 10 to 15,000, 10 to $15 million range, and two of them were nearly 30. So it's almost a $90 million debt that we refinanced for lesser rate
So if I might continue,
in 2020, right?
when those bonds came to us, the refinancing the bonds, the pitch we get is this'll save the taxpayer. And it'll give us relief going forward.
Right.
I don't recall us deciding how we're gonna redirect that money and spend it.
I wouldn't consider this spending. It's just another facilitator in order to get a low interest type loan in order to make this fund stay above water. Does that make sense? We're not actually spending
Well,
it, we're borrowing it for a period of time.
It does, but if we didn't go out and dedicate it, it's savings.
Yes.
But the problem is
now
those savings can't be captured till 39, John, because the bonds have to run to the end. So we don't actually, it's a gift to our commissioners in the future to take that savings. Right now, we can't, we can do an interloan borrowing as far as I understand, but we don't get to draw that 18 million or whatever it is right now.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
if I could.
Preston?
So I'm assuming, are these general obligation bonds to finance the parking ramp?
They are bonds that we're taking out to finance special assessments, and they were combined. Does that make sense?
Eric?
I think your question was talking about the loan, the $16.3 million loan that we're,
Yes,
that we're.
yes.
Those will be, those will not be general obligation bonds, they'll be appropriation bonds.
Okay. So they're funded through a revenue stream that's been identified? Am I understanding that correctly?
My understanding of I'm not directly involved in the bond issue itself, but my understanding is that the funding sources will be a combination of tax increment financing, revenue sources identified from parking fund.
Okay.
And then other project costs, including repayment of bonds, will be an interfund loan, yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Kolpeck.
Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate the additional diligence brought back to this meeting. And I know it was frustrating to wait 2 weeks. I didn't want this to derail this project from a community perspective. It's an incredibly, I think, innovative approach and a solution for the Fargo Community Theater that is just really a great addition to downtown Fargo and the city of Fargo. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask
Mr. Preston.
one more question. So I'm assuming almost everybody here knows the county decided not to participate in a couple of past projects. What is the impact on the years this TIF district will have to go if the county would choose not to participate?
That's a great question, Commissioner. I'll ask Jim if you could take the podium on that question. And I just want to clarify, and the mayor was addressing this earlier, the 2020 refi opportunity that was discovered by Baker Tilly was about an $18 million savings between now and 2039. So at full expiration, to that taxpayer question, that will be the savings to the taxpayer. And that's our interfund loan. That's the really key component that allowed this to close the gap. So I'll let Jim speak to the county's participation. Jim tracks the county discussions on tax increment.
Yeah, the county has the option to opt out on any tax increment financing assistance that we're providing to a developer. The law does not specifically say they can opt out when the city is using it for a public purpose. So if the county or the school district were to opt out, that could put the tax exemption that Kilbourne is relying on in jeopardy, especially if the school district did. If the county did, we're not sure. And so, but that'll be a step that'll be taken when they actually apply for the property tax exemption in the Renaissance zone. Now, the first 5 years that we expect the developer to apply for is the Renaissance zone, and the county cannot opt out on a 5-year exemption. This would be a second 5-year exemption.
So if I could do a follow-up question. So let's go back to those other two projects. How many years gets added on from the city perspective and the school district perspective? Because I understand school district is participating in those two. How many years, what's the impact is what I'm trying to get to when the county doesn't participate?
I mean, I think in the River House project on 2nd Avenue here was going to add probably 2 years to what the city and the county were providing. When we set these TIFs up, it's a set amount too. So, it could be that it's, not impacting it at all. It just depends on what the value is, 5 years from now.
Commissioner Pipcorn.
So, Mr. Chair, real quick, and this is just an editorial comment. The thing that's frustrating is they get to choose whether they participate or not, but they still get to benefit from it. That's the thing that's the most disappointing, because obviously these big projects, the county will be getting significant more revenue, and they don't have to participate. So that doesn't really seem fair to me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other discussion? Mr. Strand.
Thank you. In this financing plan, while we see, and this is a great project, it's just detail. I don't still see a lot of detail as to, 4 million parking funds, these other categories. It's just kind of loosey-goosey, when we'll get what we'll get and how much we'll get. And I would hope that we could drill down and get more detail. I don't know that a private entity would go forward with a $20 million project of any kind with this type of iffy financing.
Well, Baker Tilly's looked closely at the projections we've given them, both in terms of parking revenue from the NP ramp, the parking revenue from the other parking facilities, and the projected TIF district. I mean, I can give you those spreadsheets. It starts out with the TIF district. It's very low, and then it'll climb to about $800,000 a year. That's why you see these graphs going up as parking income goes up, as TIF income increases over the years.
Perhaps, Jim, you can give him that thing that Baker Tilly gave you that gives it better finance. I think you were kind of requested by Commissioner Preston to have kind of a short presentation, but perhaps you could show what Baker Tilly gave you and Terry, just on that bond and how it goes forth. John, we can give you that detail. It's really dependent on revenue. Can revenue cover the costs? They're low at the beginning, and then it comes up, and then should more than cover the cost. As you can see, you're up to $1 million, $1.5 million eventually when you get going. So,
And Baker Tilly has kind of backloaded these bonds, and that's, so our payments in the first 5 years are as low as possible. And then as TIF revenue and revenue increases, we can make larger bond payments. So initial bond payments are like $1 million a year. Towards the end is $2 million a year.
Mr. Strand.
Has there been any discussion at all about the developers participating in us addressing the shortfalls if it becomes undoable or untenable?
You know, I've
Because they're
not
gonna benefit
discussed that
from
with
this.
them, and as Eric noted on Block 9, then you'd be transferring some ownership. I don't know if they'd be interested in trying to own the ramp. You know, we didn't really get into that. From the city's perspective, I think we're looking at more, how can the city control this long term rather than the developer?
But we just sold a parking ramp a block away from there, or, really close to there.
And certainly you could sell it in the future, but we didn't get into those kind of discussions. I don't think their project's feasible enough. They're going to have 145 apartments. They don't need to own 450 parking spots, where Bell Bank has 350 employees, and so it made sense for them to own a 350. RDO has over 300 employees, so they were insistent that they own a parking ramp.
Mr. Strand.
Jim, how many more parking ramps are coming our way?
I think in the core of the downtown, this is going to fill the need for probably, 15, 20 years, unless another Block 9 shows up and someone wants to build 100,000 square feet of office space and needs parking. I don't foresee another one in the core of the downtown.
This actually, a parking study you had done years ago, Jim, kind of completes it and really helps us to be north and south areas where businesses can have parking and be part of that. I think Randy's planning on developing some of his block next to Old Broadway as well, which might increase the amount. We also have Fort Knox that's looking at what it wants to do, but it really helps that business district to have enough parking. And I know the Black Building had difficulty because they didn't have parking for people to go into that building. We had people with 50, 100 employees, and that was one of the things that held up that employer to rent out a space in the Black Building. But to your question, John, I think this does help complete us for a while, and as time goes on off Broadway, we probably will do parking ramps. But this really gives a benefit to the public to have options when they're downtown.
Mayor,
Commissioner Strand?
I'd like to make one more comment. My primary concern about this project from the day one was the notion we have a public asset, land the city owns, that developers came to us and said, can we partner with you and put something together and great on that? And my question was, and you've heard this before, but I'm going to reiterate it. My question is, why didn't we advertise it to the public, or why didn't we give other developers a chance to have a chance at that? What I have not heard is a single developer out there who says, gee, I wish I'd have known about that. But I still think that'd be a good process. Yeah. But I have not heard from a developer out there that says, gee, I wish I'd have had a chance to get this public asset, because it is the public asset. So that's been my biggest concern all along, is when you have an asset the city owns, that the public owns, that you have these relationships evolving with developers, and then it gets so far down the tracks, and pretty soon there aren't other options. Yet, I haven't heard from anybody who's approached us and said, gee, I wish I'd had that chance. Going forward, though, I really think that's important, to give the public a chance at any opportunity as a process, as a policy.
Yeah, and I had discussions with Global Development, because we knew this site would work for a mixed-use facility, and suggested to Randy that maybe the city and Global should do a joint RFP. And I don't know if you talked to other developers, but they looked at the different developments that have been done downtown, and they preferred Kilbourne for the ability to get it done, and the quality and the design. So I mean, that was, we didn't control the entire site. If we did, absolutely, we should have done that.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Colpack?
Aye.
Preston?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item B, Renaissance Zone. project at Epic United Real Estate Holdings, LLC, for a new construction project on 234 Main Avenue. Megan Ipshog to explain. Oh, I'm sorry, Nicole to explain.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. The city received a Renaissance Zone application from Epic Unite Real Estate Holdings to construct a new mixed-use building at 234 Main Avenue. Pursuant to the application, the intent of the project is to construct a new 7-story, 136,000 square foot building with underground first and second level parking, commercial space, first and third floors, and residential apartments and for sale condos on floors 4 through 7. Construction is expected to begin in '23 with completion in '24. The Renaissance Zone Authority did approve this unanimously. There was some discussion on parking demands that was addressed, as well as talking about threshold limits, which is going to be looked at in a future plan update. This far exceeds the threshold limits. And at this point in time, the applicant will be investing $25 million, as you can see, which equates to about $186 per square foot. Be glad to answer any questions. We do have a representative present as well.
Is there anyone present who wishes to speak to this project? Anyone wishes to speak?
Christopher Cohen, Fargo resident. So I studied a little bit of planning back in the late 80s, and what we learned is that cities, or large cities, are these days, or these decades, trying to reclaim their waterfronts. And so they're actually like covering over freeways that are along the waterfronts and trying to get parks in there and so forth. So I think this is a lost opportunity. I think we should leave as much open space as possible along the river and maybe even reforest it with native trees. And you could have another Lindenwood style park up here in the downtown area. Because Lindenwood is terribly popular. It's always crowded with people. So the downtown area could actually have a natural forested area. And the oil company site that you bought, that could be included in it. And so forth. So, and you can still have development, but you just push it back a little bit and have it along the park edge, your high rises and so forth. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak? We'll close public hearing. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Strand?
Yes.
Preston?
Aye.
Colpack?
Aye.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Mahoney?
Aye. Fitzsimmons, second edition, 50, approval recommended by Planning Commission 8222, a zoning change to repeal and reestablish conditional overlay, general commercial zoning district, first reading of the rezoning ordinance, and a plat of the Fitzsimmons, second edition. Donald Crest to talk about it today.
I have a separate. Okay. Wait a second, sir. Nope. No, there's one called planning.
We had some IT issues.
Oh, okay.
All right.
There'll be one just called planning department presentation. Might be easier.
This one.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Good evening, Commissioners. Donald Crest of the Department of Planning and Development. As the mayor has stated, our only item tonight here is item 31C. This item includes a ordinance prepared by the City Attorney's Office, which is included in your packet. This is the Fitzsimmons Second Edition, as the mayor has stated. This is located on 52nd Avenue South, 38th Street, I-29 here, the Southside Walmart here. It is a replat of a portion of the original Fitzsimmons edition for a couple of years ago. And the requested entitlements are a minor subdivision and a zoning change. This is what the property looks like as of a few days ago. I always like to take pictures on sunny days, but there have not been many of them here recently. Here we're standing on 51st Avenue North. This is the I-29 exit ramp where it comes into 52nd Avenue South. And then now we're going on the far end of the property, looking southwesterly, 52nd Avenue up here. Here's the existing development in Fitzsimmons subdivision. And then just another couple of shots of the undeveloped area. And here is looking down the access easement that we'll talk about in a little bit here for that property. So that's how that property looked late last week. The zoning here is general commercial with a conditional overlay. The proposed zone change does not change the general commercial zoning, but it makes a minor modification to that conditional overlay. Specifically, as is explained in detail in your staff report that Megan prepared, in the original overlay that dates back to 2007, there was a prohibition against vehicle repair as a use on this property, which would ordinarily be allowed in general commercial. This conditional overlay modification proposes to eliminate that, so vehicle repair would be allowed in this area. The applicant is with us today, and he can tell you what he has in mind, what his client has in mind for that. So that is the zone change. So again, the GC zoning will remain, just a minor modification to the list of uses allowed in the conditional overlay. This also includes a minor plat. Here's the plat here. There's a lot of lines on that plat, Commissioner. Just to make it clearer for you, this is Lot 1 and this is Lot 2. Again, these are for commercial development. Commissioners, you'll note in your staff report that staff is recommending a conditional approval. This is something we've done occasionally. In this case, there was just a couple things related to easements related to stormwater and the wording of how that needs to be on the plat that we just need to, we're working with the city engineer's office and the applicant to just finalize that wording. So what this means is you can approve this plat today if that's your wish, and staff will just hold on to it until those final items are resolved and then recorded. It does not need to come back before your commission. And then also just for your information, the Planning Commission approved a conditional use permit for a parking adjustment on this property at the November 1st Planning Commission, or the October Planning Commission. Your commission takes no action on that. So that's done, and that will go into effect once the zone change and the plat are approved. The Planning Commission's recommendation is stated in your staff report and shown on the screen. The applicant's representative, Blake Carlson of Christensen Companies, is with us this evening, may wish to address the commission. That concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Does anyone present wish to speak to this?
Good evening, Blake Carlson with Christensen Companies. I have nothing to add to Donald's report, but available for questions.
Could you just give us an idea what you're thinking of putting in there?
So on the north lot, it'd be a climate-controlled multi-story storage facility. In the south lot, that one is going to come a little later. We're talking about like a tire store repair shop.
So have I heard the advertisement of this is Pipcorn could have like a place where he could bring his car and work on it and has, I've heard this storage unit's gonna be a little different. Is that right? Is that the one I'm hearing be touted?
That might be a different one. This one is not that kind.
Not quite that. It'd be climate controlled.
Yeah, it'd be for people's personal storage items.
Okay. I heard one that's out there that has a special man cave type atmosphere, but.
I think that's a different one.
Okay. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak to this? Commissioners have any questions on it? No? I'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Preston, second by who?
Second.
Kolpak. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Preston?
Aye.
Kolpak?
Aye.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Item 33, recommendation to approve the Red River Valley Regional Dispatch Center Joint Powers Agreement and to appoint Mayor Tim Mahoney and Commissioner Denise Kolpak as members of the RRRDC Board of Authority. Now, this is something we looked at a while back just to try to figure out how to do our dispatch center. And the good news is we're going to get a new dispatch center. The county is going to build us a new dispatch center in a building that is much better positioned in our community. And, or Chief, what do you call it? What's the special designation so a tornado can't take it down? Hardened structure. A hardened structure. And it's a fantastic thing, but when we did this, we began to look at the governance of the structure and realized we did not have politicians involved and/or budget approval type of people involved with the idea. So Mike Redinger and the chief will explain what we're getting ourselves into, but it's a much better governance structure than we've had in the past.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, and well said, Mayor. I just wanted to add a couple of notes. One, a very, very big thank you on behalf of the City of Fargo and our organization. Chief Dirksen has really been at the helm here over the last couple of years, 3 years, trying to navigate all the conversations with these other political subdivisions. And so I just want to acknowledge his efforts because I'm just convinced we would not be here today had it not been for the chief's investment in time and Eric Johnson's time as well. Erica also has put in a lot of time over the last 20 plus years now since we've had this joint dispatch center. It's hard to believe, but that's been a very quick 20 years. This came into existence in 2001. And so some of us remember that, and we were kind of a fledgling operation. We've since expanded to include the city of West Fargo and memorialized their participation. So I think that this really moves us to the next level of operation and excellence for the dispatch for the next 20 years and hopefully beyond that. And so to the mayor's point, to modernize that and to make sure that we have good representation from our elected leaders from across all of these political subs, I think is a good move. I think it's a good improvement. But I just wanted to personally thank Chief Dirksen for all of his efforts over the years as the representative for the city of Fargo. So he's going to provide just a quick summary of the document. Eric's also available for any questions that you would have, commissioners, but this item is being presented to all of the member entities of the Red River Dispatch Center. So, Chief.
Thank you. Yeah, as the mayor and Mike has said, that this we started in 2019 with this process to look at the governance model. The previous model has served us well for the first 20 years of the organization, but we needed a place where to move it to the next level to get the political folks more involved and not have the chiefs and sheriffs running the money and the budget and those kind of things. But we're going to the police and sheriffs will continue to oversee the operational functions and assist Mary Philippi as the director in running the dispatch center. Just a couple of real quick highlights. So each member entity, so the 5 entities would be Cass and Clay County, the city of Fargo, the city of Moorhead, and the city of West Fargo. And each member entity will have 2 members, one being the mayor of, if that's a city, or the commission chair if it's the county, and then 1 other member from the elected commissions from there. And from our point of view at this point, the mayor as the liaison to the police department, Commissioner Kolpak as the liaison to the fire department, seem to be the 2 logical members to be part of that that board because they have the direct ties with us as department heads to move forward with there. When this agreement gets through the process, last week Monday night, Cass County did approve the JPA. We are the next one up. Tomorrow morning at 8:35, Clay County will take this up. On November 21st, West Fargo will take this up. And on November 28th, Moorhead will take this up. So we'll have this in front of everybody by that point. Cass County did approve it last week and moving forward, but within 30 days of setting the date of when this becomes effective, this the new board needs to come together for an organizational meeting, elect their chair, and move forward. A couple other highlights, there is going to be a budget and finance committee, and that will be, and it's designated within the JPA that it'll be the mayor and the commission chair, and then of each entity plus the finance person from each entity will be the budget and finance committee for the triple RDC. There's an executive committee that'll be made up of the police and fire chief from each of the cities, as well as the county sheriffs and a designee from as appointed by their representatives from the 2 counties. The personnel committee that will be made up for the triple RDC is going to be the HR director from each of the member entities, and then the designee, either the police chief or fire chief or the sheriff, to work there within the dispatch center as well. A couple other highlights, the financial oversight that's coming through this is all going to go to Cass County for oversight in the budget. Currently how everything works within the budget, and that goes into section 12 here as well. All the money from the Cass County side of the river is funded through Cass County. There is no impact to the city of Fargo or the city of West Fargo budgets. We made that shift in about 2015 or 16 when we voted to add another 50 cents to your phone surcharges. And when we did that, all the money just went to Cass County. They collected it all and paid one bill. The city of Fargo for the last 21 years has been the financial agent, but with building the dispatch center, Cass County is putting up a lot of the money for it and wanted to be the fiscal agent and felt that that was a good way to go through that. Just a couple of things that you may not know of how the dispatch center really operates. How we're going to break down the who pays for what. We actually do pay some money into the dispatch center from the city of Fargo budget, but we don't pay for the general operations. The operations are paid for 73.9% or 8% is paid for by Cass County. Cass and Clay and Moorhead pay. City of Moorhead pays 17.8%, and Clay County pays 8.3% to the total operations of the dispatch center. But there's a couple of other nuances. The dispatch CAD system that we purchased, 2010 or 11, I believe it was. That's billed there's an annual maintenance contract with that. Next year, I think it's going to be worth just south of $500,000 for that. That's split between all the agencies that participate. So the city of Fargo takes on about 36% of that cost of that maintenance contract, shared between my budget in the fire department and the police chief's budget in the police department. So those will continue the same. It's based on the number of mobile data computers that we have in all the different agencies, and that was the best way to handle that, making sure that happens. Going forward in the future, if there's an assessment that needs to be made, the agreement in there is a cost share for anything other than normal operations. The city of Fargo will take on a 50.4% share of that. The city of Moorhead will take 17.8%. Cass County will take 8%, Clay County will take 8.3%, and the city of West Fargo will take 15.5%, and that's based off the MetroCog formula going forward. Let's see, the other highlights that you would be interested in. Cass County, again, would be designated as the construction oversight. They would issue the contract for the building. Cass County is putting up somewhere in the neighborhood of about $10 million toward this project. The city of Moorhead and Clay County are funding about $2.5 million of the project for the new dispatch center. And so that's part of the agreement as well. With that, I would just stand for any questions.
Any questions of the chief? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Chief, this is great work by yourself. You actually have been sweating tears for quite some time on that. And I know Eric retired early just because it was so much work for him, but I know you guys worked hard at this, and it's really, for the commissioners to understand, this is a very unusual contract because it's across the river, and that has been hard to do when then you go across the river in interstate types of arrangements. But we're going to get a new dispatch center. We're cooperating on some land. Sanford Help is helping out a bit, and we should have this in construction. Chief, you promised me this next spring.
I'm not going to promise anything, Mayor, but I don't know where we're going to end up, but that's the goal, is that we'll start sometime next spring. And I do have to give a big shout out to Eric Johnson. He's been leading this charge. You will recognize this document to some form and fashion as what you've seen in the diversion. It's modeled after that. Eric and John Shockley both have put significant hours of time into this and getting us to this point. So it's been great to see it to this point in the line. I was hoping we could have been here 2 years ago, but it does take a long time.
Yes, Commissioner Strand.
Chief, I'm just curious, to remind me, a few years back, we had discussions about, and it went over to Minnesota, but across the state of North Dakota, there were some real needs with the communication systems that weren't consistent, and with the major update me on where we're at with all that, because I don't recall where we're at now and how that fits into this.
Yep. Well, it doesn't really fit into this at all. That's all taken care of. It's all paid for and being used. So what happened is we had a radio system that was becoming antiquated. We couldn't get parts for the system. If it repaired, we would be basically going out to eBay and being subject to the highest bidder to get parts. So we needed to upgrade things. We were working hard at the state level, state of North Dakota level, but we weren't getting the assurances that we needed to change the statewide system. So, I can't remember the time frame. Probably about 3 or 4 years ago, we put an initiative through, and Cass County took that on, and we put in a $15 million radio system just for Cass County. Since that time, the state of North Dakota has updated and put through what's called the siren system. And that is in place. That's working its way through the state as well. We did benefit through our system onto the North Dakota, through the North Dakota system as well. We were able to get some North Dakota funding to help offset some of the cost of our radios. So we were able to purchase on that contract and go through there. But our system is up and running. It's been working well for just a little over a year and a half now. And we're really, really happy with it. So the radio signals, we're bouncing things into Minnesota and coming back to us. But at some point, if we ever needed to, the system within North Dakota is capable of adding us to that and being part of that. But just the interoperability that we have right now and the way we interact with our police and fire departments across the rivers, this is the best way for us to go at this point in time.
Thank you.
Good question. Any other discussion?
Yeah.
Commissioner Kolpak.
I just wanted to add, I appreciate Chief Dirksen walked me through the agreement. It's very comprehensive. It is modeled after best practices learned from Diversion Authority Agreement. And it really is in the spirit of a number of governments coming together to solve a problem for really a region and collaborate. So well done.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Strand?
Yes.
Kolpak?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Preston?
Aye.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item 34, recommendation for appointment planning committee at the Metro Flood Diversion Authority. Basically, what the Diversion Authority has done is it's trying to organize a little bit different. We worked with John Shockley and Jeff Schatz, and to kind of replace a different committee, this would be the planning committee would function almost like an executive committee that would bring items forward to the agenda to the DA board, and it helps the chairman in making decisions of where they want to go or what they want to do. So we revised that. There used to be chairman's call, and this would really replace that because the chairman's call was made up of a variety of different people. This codifies who is actually on that executive committee. So you have my recommendation, which is usually the chairs of the cities around, or who is the mayor of the city. So you have my recommendation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Kolpak?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Preston?
Aye.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item 35, you have there's a recommendation to authorize negotiation of a sewer agreement with Commerce on Y-29 Association. Jim Hafhauer to explain, plus he's got Brenda up there. Okay, both of you, okay?
You want backup, or I guess he's my backup.
Something like that, yes.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Tonight, we just want to circle back around. About a month ago, we were in front of you on a brown bag to discuss written requests we had received from Commerce on I-29 to receive their sewer via pipe. And so just to go back through the couple of options we are talking about, we actually have an actual written request from Commerce on I-29, which is a platted development in the ET for the city of Fargo. And they had made a request for the sewer to allow us to receive it via pipe at 64th Avenue and 45th Street. So that's where our sanitary sewer ends to date. We also knew we've had communication that there would be a possible second request to the west of there. So we have, Jim has taken this information and went to Utility Committee along with the Finance Committee. And what you have in front of you is a request to authorize staff to negotiate a sewer agreement with only the Commerce on I-29 addition, with Southeast Cass Resource District providing the financing and Commerce on I-29 repaying the debt. Fargo would own and operate the infrastructure and then charge a volumetric rate to Commerce on I-29. We would be back again with the actual agreement for approval. So this would be a two-step approval. And we would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Jim, you got to say something. This is your deal.
This is just a good opportunity to solve a problem that's been out there for a couple of years. With the city of Fargo not spending any money essentially to solve the problem, it would be with Southeast Cast financing it and Commerce from paying the debt. So we think that this is probably a good opportunity for us.
Now, doesn't this help Commissioner Strand's Sustainability Committee because you're actually getting rid of people hauling trucks? It just goes in the pipe?
Yes, it would go into the pipe. We would not be hauling it up to the wastewater plant, yes.
Commissioner Strand.
I'm curious about, we're talking an extraterritorial area. That's what it is, challenging in many ways, and we don't want to be leapfrog growth, across, out to the edge. Now, and you're already indicating there's maybe going to be another request coming. How many more will there be?
So we have started the discussion on what that sewer agreement could look like. And one of the things we've talked about with the city attorney's office is, could we connect that agreement with the plat? So that that sewer service was only designed for the land inside the Commerce on I-29 plat. And so those are some of the things we've been talking about. How do we keep it to just the actual platted land that's there today? And what can we add to that agreement so that in 5 years there isn't well, we've done the calculations and we feel there's more capacity in here. So if we tie that agreement to only that addition, then an amendment would have to come forward if there was any type of change to it. And, we can't stop people from asking, but it would tie it to that addition. So that's one tool we have talked about using.
Another opportunity, Commissioner, is essentially just designing it so that it can only accommodate just the Commerce on I-29 association. So if we have a lift station that has finite capacity and a pipeline that has finite capacity, it kind of limits how many outside users can even ask to utilize that infrastructure, so.
But down the road, might you not be looking at that and going, we underplanned it? And we needed more and we should have done it more upfront? I'm just,
But that kind of opens up Pandora's box.
Well, that's the whole point of this, is it does open a Pandora's box, and what do we do
So I think,
policy-wise?
yeah, so what I would say though is, and maybe you know better, more than, I think there's only two or three undeveloped lots out there. So it's pretty predetermined right now as to what's going out there. And so I'm pretty sure so 3/4 of it
Yep.
is probably developed. So we should be able to evaluate, what that last portion's gonna be. The bigger concern like I have is, in 5 or 10 years, is a neighbor gonna come back and say, well, our engineer evaluated the capacity and we feel there's more capacity, because maybe what we estimated is more than what got developed there. So by containing it to the addition only, that helps do that expansion, not just by capacity, but by tying it to that development only.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Rist.
so you have indicated we can't stop somebody from asking. I was listening again to the Cass County meeting recently, and a comment was made that the neighboring property is already on the docket to make that request. I'm talking outside this plat. So yes, we can't stop somebody from asking, but what it would take is constitution, not only from staff, but also from the elected leaders up here to say no. And that's where I get concerned. And certainly, I understand fully trying to solve a problem. However, this problem became a problem because this commission, well, not this commission, but a commission, didn't follow staff recommendations. Now, what I'm hearing you clearly say is that you are recommending to move forward with this. Is that, am I hearing that correctly?
And mostly the reason why is the permit was done through the state, but the reason we ended up here is there was some environmental issues. And so the state came back and talked to the city and said, how do we get our arms around this?
But the environmental issues are gone with the trucking, right?
Today.
With the hauling.
Yep, today.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, I think that was my aha moment when we were at one of the committee meetings is, but in 5 or 10 more years, if there's a problem, we're gonna get back, I mean, they're gonna come and talk to us and ask us, you know, how we move forward. And so they're gonna ask us to help them.
Who's they you're talking about here?
The state, environmental health,
Okay.
if there is a problem again.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, and I don't want to put you on the spot here, Nicole, but I'd like to hear from the planning side.
Did you have a direct question or?
Your
No, I
your
think we're in
ideas
support.
on the recommendation.
Oh, no, we're in support of this. I think with the understanding the future developers agreement that comes in front of you is tied directly to this plat. We definitely see the, sewer going into raw open ditches is not what we want. And I know they're pumping from, they're hauling and pumping, they got the solution solved, but it still seems very temporary compared to what the official urbanized infrastructure could be. So, but tying it to the plat, I think will be imperative.
Nicole, could you just address on the planning of the plot that's next to it? Would that come through our planning commission?
It'd come to our planning commission and our city commission, and I guess this would be on the record to say it'd really be up to you guys to hold the line.
And if I could,
Because the county doesn't have it, it's planning, we don't control it, it's actually the city's
It's already
planning commission. Commissioner Preston.
if I could make one more comment, what I heard, and this came from a credible source at the county commission meeting, is that they are under the impression that that's actually going to happen.
I'm sure we've already had an informal request to apply for an application. We rejected it because we didn't support it. But I don't know what I didn't listen to the county meeting to know what's under their purview.
Well, it's known by the developer that they did want to do their other site. That's what they wanted to upsize the pipe for. So by us approving only the 6-inch pipe, we're just saying it's just for this area. If we had wanted to do that, so they can plan all they want, still have to go through the planning commission. And I think what Nicole's asking us to do is reject that because that truly would be leapfrogging and we don't want to encourage that any further. So.
Without a strategic plan, which right now we have the growth plan out for RFP and review, and we'll go through the next 6-month study, and without getting that planning process.
Commissioner Strand.
But we're already leapfrogging. It's already there.
It's already there.
It's already happened.
Yep.
And then how do you stop that? I mean, at what point how do we contain that?
I think by not upsizing the infrastructure that's being requested.
But bear with me, if you're gonna build it, why not build it big enough to accommodate what the future is gonna be? I mean, I would just see people asking that. If you know it's gonna be needing more, if you go to a little bigger pipe, I just don't understand this. And I know it's extraterritorial, we got one request there, and we're financing it, correct?
No, we are not financing it.
We're creating the bonding or loan, aren't we?
No,
Or
we are
How is
not.
it being financed?
It's being financed through Southeast Cass Water Resource District.
Public.
So we have no financing in this. So we will charge them per volumetric rate and then also add a operation and maintenance to it.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Brenda, but aren't they paying for it through their?
Correct.
They'll be special assessed.
Yeah, they'll be special assessed and 100% paying for it, I believe.
Yeah, so Southeast Cass Water Resource District has assessment authority. And so they have requested that if the project moves forward, Southeast Cass will design it, construct it, and 100% assess the development for it.
But Fargo will own it and operate it, the infrastructure, that's what it says.
Correct. We will own and operate it in the end, but we are not paying for it.
We'll get paid for owning it, John. They'll pay us, so. It's a past mistake. We jumped out there. They thought it was cheaper for commercial. They could help some people out that had, a little less cost. What we've learned from it is leapfrogging, and eventually your infrastructure gets part of that. This solves a problem, but Jim is holding the line that that's all we're going to solve is that problem. It allows them in the future. That's 4 miles that pipe has to run, Jim, is from 4 miles. So I doubt that we would leapfrog, this commission at least, would leapfrog 4 miles future.
If I could, well, I don't know if this is a question, but I mean, I think really the question at hand is the environmental concern of raw sewage and the potential of temporary. I mean, I think the experts will say it's not raw sewage right now because it's being pumped and contained and privatized, hauled, but it's no different than, kind of rural development. And there's a big risk there of, in my mind, as a planner, not having official infrastructure is really dangerous.
It's like at a lake cabin when you have a septic tank that overflows. Basically, that's what you're waiting for.
Basically, that's what you have right now.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Colpack.
Aye.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Preston.
Aye.
Strand.
No.
Mahoney.
Aye. John, we were on a 5-0 run all the time. Now you ruined that. Well, it is going to ruin. I'll just take the precedent of allowing us to go to item 1 first, and then we'll go to liaison assignments. Item 1 was the purchase agreement of 701 Brew LLC for the property at 714 12th Street North. This is the final vote on it, Nancy? Is that what it is?
Yes, the sellers have signed the purchase agreement and it's presented to you for approval.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Strand?
What would happen if it were turned down at this point, being as it's gone through this? I'm just curious procedurally.
Nancy?
It is presented to you for approval of the terms that are on the agreement. You did previously agree to purchase the property for $29,000, but terms had not been presented at that time.
We'd be reneging on our commitment. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Colpack.
Aye.
Preston.
No.
Strand.
No.
Mahoney.
Aye. Laser Commission assignment updates. Mr. Strand, fresh from Florida. What do you
I
to
don't
tell
have
us?
anything to report except coming up this week, Commissioner Pepcorn's birthday is right around the corner, so we'll all wish him the best.
Didn't you get a gift with Christian Watson's performance this week? Commissioner Kolpak.
I have 3 slides tonight, so it'll be brief, but good updates. So the first is the Solid Waste Department just wants to remind everyone that it's America Recycles Day on tomorrow, Tuesday, November 15th, and the city of Fargo encourages everyone to always recycle and recycle right. You wouldn't believe some of the stuff that goes in the recycling bins. So I'll leave it at that. The water treatment plant. The Fargo Water Treatment Plant utilizes many water quality instruments, which are constantly being monitored throughout the building. And in fact, I encourage citizens of Fargo to arrange a tour if you've never been in the building. It's amazing. And they're utilized for monitoring, regulatory monitoring, trending, graphing in a control system, water treatment plant process performance analyses, and water treatment plant process adjustments. And the instrument pictured on the right continuously measures total organic carbon from 6 different water sample locations in the 2 plants. So again, I encourage you to take a tour of that plant. It's one of Fargo's greatest assets. And the last Fargo Youth Initiative had its kickoff meeting yesterday, and there's 3 exciting initiatives they're going to focus on. First, and it's similar to last year, enhanced mental health screenings for high school students. Again, Black History Month programming in the schools, and adding boosting youth voice and civic affairs, which I'm really excited about through consulting and events. So much more to come there. And those are my updates.
Thank you. A couple different areas in the downtown area. We've been discussing different ways to enhance or improve what's going on in the downtown area. We met with Jan Eliason and her team in harm reduction And Nicole Crutchfield has volunteered some funding that we could help to hire a coordinator that would work with us at the emergency services group to try to figure out what to do with, number one, our homeless. As Commissioner Strand will get kind of concerned as winter comes on, do we have enough housing for people? And to also look at problems, issues that we have in the downtown area. Chief Sabowski, we have some difficulties with some people with mental health illnesses, and we would like to enhance or have options for people. This is coordinating then with all the medical services in the community. And when a police officer is confronted with a person that's having some difficulties, is where do we house them or where do we take them? That would then combine harm reduction. We talked about trying to enhance the staff because some of the difficulties Jan is having is she does not have enough staff. Mobile outreach could do another van, and we just don't have enough staff to fill that. So we're seriously going to look at how do we solve that problem, which probably be coming back to the commission as wage increase or something to do that. We met with the Jasper Hotel people as well, and some of the difficulties they're facing downtown. The good news is that they seem to be having more people come and more events are in the downtown area at the present time. So many people in the downtown region feel things are improving or getting better. The police have had some help with the sheriff's office and with highway patrol, and have been doing more scheduled weekend events that they've been a participant. The overall, just as all commissioners have approached this issue downtown, and I just want to assure you everybody's working very hard to try to come up with solutions. Chief Sabowski should have full numbers of staff by next summer that we know that will be downtown. And I heard, Chief, now you didn't tell me this, but somebody wants segways or something downtown, like the Seattle police, that they can get around a little bit easier. Apparently they can't ride their bike as fast as a Segway can go. So it's one of the thoughts processes, do we get that involved so we could better help downtown as well? But overall, I'd say commission, the staff, the planning, the different people are all very engaged with this process right now. Commissioner Strand, you're back from Florida, so I expect you full court press on this now as well to see what other solutions we can come up with. But I'm happy to say I think people are making progress. So that'd be my report. Commissioner Preston.
Yeah, just to add a little bit in regards to the situation of homelessness going into the winter months. Just talked with Jan a little bit prior to this, and they are full, and so are probably all the other shelters in town. There's a couple of them that apparently aren't in play that were in play before, so we're going into a winter that might be difficult, and so we're constantly monitoring that. Health Department met very briefly with a couple of legislators that had reached out, Senator Hogan and Senator Lee, who are actively engaged on legislative committees that are connected with the Health Department and interest with public health. That went really well. It's just a meeting to establish communication, and hopefully that will go back and forth with the legislative session. Opioid roundtable that happened, it was actually something, John, that you might have been interested in.
I wanted to go.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I was sitting at home, but yes.
It was really interesting. There were representatives, Mayor Mahoney was there as well, Chief Zabolski was there for a short while, and actually Health Department individuals were there as well. And it was very enlightening. State Highway Department was the group that organized it. And we heard from providers as well as law enforcement and a number of other individuals. It's a huge issue for sure. One of the individuals did reach out to me afterward from the governor's office, and I believe it's Reinventing Recovery or something like that. And he's very interested and willing to come to Fargo to talk with us a little bit more in depth. So maybe the beginning part of next year or something. We met with the Roosevelt Neighborhood Association and the Neighborhood Coalition meeting, and it was run by the Planning Department, who are introducing new staff. Brad Garcia, who is kind of the neighborhood person inside the Planning Department, had an opportunity to introduce himself, and yeah, they were good meetings, both of them, so.
And just on the addiction issue, there's difficulty right now because there's a additive that they're adding to some of the fentanyl that does not reverse with Narcan, so it's more fatal to the user. So Chief has noticed that in some of the mixes that we're finding lately, so the community needs to know that what you get sometimes is not what you thought you got. Commissioner Pipcorn.
No update, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Any other business? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Diana, are we okay? You survived? I want to say thanks to Diana. She wasn't feeling too well with that knee, but she's done a great job. Oh, two knees, I'm sorry.